All right, Harry. A lot of people question the authenticity of the Bible and its accuracy, right? Even in the Christian community. What would you say about that?
Yeah, well, let's go through step by step through the Bible. First, we start with the creation story, the first few chapters of Genesis. Uh, how do we know that they are accurate?
Well, we read in Exodus chapter 34 that God says to Moses, write. So he's basically saying, write everything down I'm about to show you. So we know that we get the first part from God, the creation story.
Right on, exactly. That's really important. And now we have the story of Noah. That's way before Moses. Also, how would he know that?
It's the same thing. We got it from God. We just we Exodus 34, and we encourage people to go read that chapter. And God tells Moses to write everything down that he's about to tell him.
Exactly, exactly. And God spends twice. God spends 40 days with Moses on the mountain, many hours together. So then we have Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. How would that story? That's 500 years before Moses.
Well, we know that genealogy was obviously very important to them back then, so that would have probably been passed down. But also, we could tie in the God factor again to that as well. Isn't that fair to say?
Yeah, because you have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and all that. The details on that, there's just no way that Moses could
Mm,
know exact details like we read about. When we read those stories, every detail is mentioned. And in fact, going back to Noah too, the length of the ark and the footage and the days it would happen, that's impossible to remember that for generations. But
yeah, for
God was
sure.
there, and so that stays with us. So then, what about Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy? How would Moses know what to write there?
Well, those are mostly stories surrounding him, so we'd obviously know that he'd be able to remember those parts at least, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yes, Samuel, Kings, Chronicles. How would all the stories about all the kings in Israel? How would we know those are accurate?
I'm not sure. We said we know that they had scribes, but maybe you could elaborate on that better than I can.
Yeah, like they all had every king is a proud man and all that, and people wrote all this stuff down, and we actually have the stories mostly twice, the David story twice, the Solomon story twice. All those stories are in there twice over, so we know their details, of course, vary, but the stories are parallel. Um, so then about the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, all those, how do we know those are accurate?
Well, they were hearing the message from God Himself. And another cool thing that sticks out to me, at least, I'll let you add on to this, is that we see that they were fulfilled. So it's not like these prophecies were in vain, shall we say.
Exactly, exactly. Then an important item I find is 250 BC, there was, before Jesus, actually 300 BC, we have Alexander the Great bringing the Greek culture and everything to the world. And then 250, we have the Septuagint, which is the Jewish Old Testament from Genesis through to Malachi, written in the Greek language. They did that in Alexandria with 72 Jewish scholars, put that together. And that's really, really important for a lot of reasons because after 70 AD, after Jerusalem was destroyed, Israel was pretty well wiped out. And so all the books and everything they had then would have been wiped out. But the Septuagint went across Europe, Asia. All the big cities had Jewish populations, and they propagated that. And actually, many people became Jews because the God of Heaven was made a lot more sense than these idols did to the people, and the Jewish faith had a lot of credibility. And so that's another reason why we know the Old Testament is accurately kept.
Wow,
Then
that's
in the New
cool.
Testament. Yeah, no, it is really neat. And then in the New Testament we have the four Gospels, Matthew and John. How we know those are right?
Well, they walked with Jesus. They were his apostles or disciples.
Yeah, and Mark.
Mark was, I believe, the friends of them, right? Like really close to them.
Yeah, and I think he was related to Peter maybe, and so on. Luke. What made him? What? How did he get it accurate? He wasn't one of
He
the
was
apostles.
a disciple of Paul, but he was actually an intelligent man. They say he was a physician and a great researcher. So even on the start of it, he went in great depths, he says, to find out all this research. So he's probably interviewing everybody, getting a broad view of the stories of Jesus.
Exactly. And in Acts, Luke also wrote what he researched and experienced. Okay, so he joined Paul on a second missionary journey. A year 50, he either became a Christian or he joined up with Paul at that time. So in the letters that were written, they all describe church problems, and letters written by people talking about the different situations in the churches. And
even
really,
Peter says stuff like, some of Paul's teachings are a little difficult, so they're like referencing each other's letters. So we know that's accurate, obviously.
exactly. And then the book of Revelations, an angel shows John, the writer of that, visions to record. So again, it's all first person. He is actually writing what he sees and recording that. Then in 1947, the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's really an important part too. All the Old Testament books were found, I think, all except for one, Esther, maybe, I'm not sure. And they were all identical to practically 99% identical to what we have in the Bible today. So we have a 2,000-year jump from 40, they were written mostly before Jesus, and so it was about 2,000 years they stayed in storage until then. And so again, a hand of God was in that to preserve them, to make sure the accuracy was maintained and can prove to be maintained. In the New Testament, we have about 24,000 ancient copies of the Gospels and the letters and so on. That authenticate the accuracy of what we have today, and they go back to the year 125 approximately. So way back, just shortly after they were written, we have copies of pieces of the Bible, of all the different ones. 24,000 pieces of copies. So the Bible is 66 books, all have the matching message. In the Old Testament, there was hundreds of references predicting Jesus. In the New Testament. And in the New Testament, we have hundreds of quotes from the Old Testament because people were using, because the information flowed from one to the other. So the Bible, accurate history book from 4000 BC to 100 AD.
Amen. Thanks, Harry.